The Cavs have been on a historic season, the second best season in Cavs history. But it is notable that this is by and far and large the best season the Cavs have ever had in so many metrics without the presence of one number 23, the kid from Akron, LeBron James. And again, I get people don't want the team to be defined about what they do when LeBron is there, when it's not. But the same way it was a big deal when the Chicago Bulls got to that point with being the one seed without Michael Jordan, it's the same thing with LeBron James. These players cast a shadow on your organizations when they're not there. With all that being said, I want to talk about what this Cavs team and if this Cavs off postseason is one of the most important ones in franchise history, if not the most important one, given the context of it, because it is a LeBron-less team after the LeBron era. And to talk about that, I'm bringing in the internet's foremost LeBron expert and Cavs expert, Abby Mueller. What have you thought, as somebody who is a big LeBron fan and obviously a big Cleveland sports fan, the Cavs being able to do this and this being a non-LeBron Cavs team that's doing this when that's like the first time in a lot of people's lives that the Cavs are ever good without LeBron?
Yeah, well, first I have to start by saying, as the biggest LeBron fan, I'm very disappointed I didn't get his Barbie doll today that was released. That was really upsetting. So it's a tough day for us LeBron fans out there.
Am I being trolled, or is that like a real thing right now?
It's a real thing, and they sold out immediately, and I was disappointed. $75 for that Barbie doll, but I was willing to front that money, and they didn't want my business, so it is what it is. But to get back to your original question, it's so funny comparing how different this era is to the LeBron era, because a lot of those teams were formed very deep into the season. Obviously, you had the core of like Kyrie, Kevin Love, and LeBron, that were a foundation for that team. But there were a lot of those bench pieces that were kind of rotating over the years, and it was like, let's bring in LeBron's friend Dwayne Wade, and now let's bring in someone else, and it was quickly changing very often over time, especially at some of those trade deadlines where it felt like they just would make a lot of moves. So it was hard to get as emotionally attached to those teams, I think, as it is to get emotionally attached to a team that we've really built from the ground up, like both Darius and Evan being kind of the homegrown guys on this team. Jarrett and Donovan have been here for a number of years now. You've got, Isaac, who's been here for a long time. Tristan back here, who, has obviously been on and off with the team for some time now. It feels different in a way, because it feels like you almost had to work harder to get it. Whereas in the previous iterations, it was like, okay, we just kind of like, a couple months before the playoffs started, just traded our entire bench and like figured out a way to make it happen.
No, I remember that being like a distinct feeling I had as a fan when they, like, even before they made, they made so many trades during that offseason. But when LeBron first came here, and it was very clear that like all this stuff that I've been trying to get excited about was about to be pushed aside, right? Yeah. Like all of the, small stuff and the team building and how you're going to build around Kyrie, and even like how Andrew Wiggins fits into the picture of what you're going to do with this core, and getting excited about that. And LeBron comes back, and obviously you're grateful to have LeBron back. But it's like LeBron's back. We're bringing on James Jones. Matt Miller's on the team now. Like, like we're just moving out everybody. And by the time you get to the finals, this team looks a lot different than what they ended up being. And like, to the credit, like, they did keep like some key pieces. Like Tristan Thompson was a piece nobody thought was going to survive all that. Like, and he ended up being a pretty crucial part of that. And ironically enough, he's still here.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Who
kind
would
of
have thought?
kind of fulfilling the Kevin Love role, right? Which, like, Kevin Love was here because he wanted to be here and he cared about being a Cav. And that's kind of what Tristan's doing, right? Where it's like, okay, well, he's here, he cares about it, he's a link to the championship past of the Cavaliers and all of that. And I keep going back to, like, this season is going to define how the Cavs, well, not this season, but how this core does in the playoffs over the next 4 years or however long they can stay together.
Yep.
Is going to define how people view the Cavs as an organization. Because right now they're the LeBron team, right? To a lot of people, they're the team that had LeBron. And when they got LeBron, you care. When they don't have LeBron, you're not used to really paying them that much. And because we love to run every sports documentary in the world that's, oh my God, poor Cleveland, look at how many times they done screwed up, right? Yeah. It's more of a pity show, right, about the Cavaliers than anything else, because of how poorly they did not build around LeBron that first time there. Despite the fact that they did do a good job of it the second time around, we never get credit for it. But it's this strange thing here that the Cavs have had to deal with. And, like, this is this team's Cleveland's, like, the Cavs team, right?
Yeah.
It's not ran by, and, like, it's funny to see this team get penalized because they don't have that star. And people talk about them differently because they don't have that overwhelming star. But it's not driven by that, right? It is the Cavaliers are doing this in kind of a Spurs Golden State way. And if they have success and win a championship in these 4 years, then people are going to look at the Cavs as one of those better organizations in basketball, where it's like, no, you want to get drafted to Cleveland. They know what they're doing in Cleveland. Like, that's a place you want to go. Even if LeBron's not there, it becomes, well, you know, the Cavs are a good team, good organization.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's on the line with this core, is the ability to prove that, hey, man, this is a good organization. We run things well, and, like, don't let the first 4 years of LeBron, like, make you be how you paint this organization forever.
I think funny enough too, with, you know, the moves that Kobe Altman has made, I feel like internally as Cavs fans, we respect what he's done, his patience, and, like, not doing anything too drastic, especially after last season when it felt like that was a direction he could have gone in, being like, well, it didn't work again, so let's blow everything up. He's been very patient in it. He's made, you know, good moves at trade deadline, like this year with DeAndre Hunter, going and getting him. Like, he's made smart pieces. But I think from an outside perspective, if you're not plugged into the Cavs on a day-to-day basis and, you know, really looking at those things, you might think that because we don't have this, like, overt star power that you were just talking about, you're kind of like, oh, what has this organization even done? But when you really look at the last 5 years at this point, it has been strategic in the way that they have brick by brick built this team to get it to the point where it is now. And I think that probably doesn't get enough credit. And I also think that always is just going to have to do with Cleveland being a small market. You know, those types of conversations aren't happening. If that type of build was happening in Los Angeles or, you know, somewhere in Boston, like, those conversations are happening. But in Cleveland, it feels like we might not get, you know, the national attention for building that way.
Another point that I think you brought up, and I might have found the title to this video, was Dan Gilbert right? Like, we just saw that Griff got fired from the Pelicans. And you can't say that Griff didn't get luck in that run. Like, obviously there was some bad luck stuff. The Zion thing didn't work out, but I mean, you still got the #1 overall. It was improbable odds to get the pick that year, and you still got Zion, right? Like, you were able to trade for CJ and all of that. And we look at the Pelicans and we're like, man, they really did not manage building out that core where they did a lot of things. They lost Lonzo Ball, like they made some moves here to win now, and like the team building just wasn't very strong there over the long-term project, and Griff gets fired because of it. Meanwhile, Kobe Altman, who, look, Dan Gilbert was harassed about this, right? Like, he was criticized. People brought up his history of firing general managers. Kobe Altman was looked at as like a not worthy hire at the time. Like, there was a lot of criticism for that. And for the years beyond, like the whole John Beeline thing and all of that, there were a lot of criticism. I mean, even as recently as last season, there was a lot of criticism towards the Kobe Altman decision that goes all the way back to the Griff thing. And the thing is that we're sitting here and we're like, wow, Kobe really knew how to build the team better than like us on the internet knew how to, right? And it's hard to humble the geniuses on the internet, myself included, right? Like, you know, we all think we know it, but he looks really good. And then you look at Griff, who people thought it was so dumb for the Cavs to get rid of. And I don't think the Cavs would be better if they kept Griff, right? I think they're better off making that move. I know we're not in the business of like giving Dan Gilbert a ton of credit, but like on this one, I feel like he deserves some respect on that.
Yeah. Well, even when I think back to the LeBron era, like, you know, there was a rotating pool of coaches that came in and out of the city for a while. And it was kind of like, we just got to find someone that works with LeBron, right? Like, that was the goal at the time. It was like, you need someone who's going to allow LeBron to take over in the way that he needs to, and not, you know, have too big of an ego standing there next to him because he's the best player in basketball. And that's kind of what your role as a coach needed to be during that time. But now it's like, I think Kobe deserves a ton of credit for his, you know, JB did what he needed to do over those years, and he built this team from being a, you know, 18-win team or whatever it was to, you know, being, you know, in the playoffs, first round of the playoffs type of vibe. And he knew when the time was up that he said, hey, I'm not going to blow up this team in terms of the players that we have. I think that we have just outgrown our coach. I'm going to make a move here. The move has worked out perfectly. Kenny has fit perfectly with this team, and he didn't completely blow up the roster in the process of doing that. And I think that deserves a lot of credit, because that, you know, that's not like luck right there. That is skill to make those decisions and figure them out. Whereas, you know, falling into the first pick in the draft, or, you know, just finding a coach time after time that's going to work with LeBron, I don't think those decisions take as much skill as, you know, what has happened here today.
Yeah, it was like they've hired some wild coaches over the span. But it takes a lot of understanding of what you have, and like a vision in which Kobe had that not a lot of people believed in, and still to this day people don't believe in it. And like, it was the one, like, it's like Doctor Strange at the end of Endgame, where it's like, this is the one way it works out. And it's like they figured that one out. And I do think, as much as we give Dan Gilbert credit for meddling and the JJ Hickson thing, which I always will say, it sounds bad that you didn't want to trade JJ Hickson for Amari Stoudemire, but also, like, do y'all think that Amari would have been a great fit with LeBron? Because like, the Amari that got traded for, that played for the Knicks, wasn't really that good or reliable. Like, do we think that keeps LeBron here, and then we're stuck with Amari Stoudemire? Maybe we're not even good enough, or maybe we're not bad enough to get the number 1 overall pick and get Kyrie, which ultimately entices LeBron back so we can win a championship. Like, we get interpreted in the least charitable light all the time about all these decisions. And Dan Gilbert certainly has earned that reputation to a point in his Comic Sans font letter and everything else that he's done. But this is one where I'm like, hey, it's kind of right. He kind of cooked on this one, y'all. And like, I didn't always think he cooked on this one. Like, there was a long time where I thought this was bad. And this was one where he ended up being right about it. And I think Dan deserves a a good amount of credit for that, because I don't think everybody does that. I mean, the guy won a championship. He's the only general manager to have ever won a championship for your organization. You're like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
That's not a decision people get. And I think that's the thing that the Cavs have been able to do is like, hey, we're going to make this decision organizationally, and it's not going to be popular.
Yeah.
But this is what we're going to do because we think this is what's best for the team. And I think that is a good hallmark of a team that's at least confident in their decisions.
Yeah.
And I would hope with that confidence comes a lot of like thought behind it, right? And I think that's been the difference.
Yeah. It's nearly impossible to, I feel like, to have patience like that in sports because everything is such a what have you done for me lately? And I feel like it would be, if I were to think about myself in a position like that, and you have fans clamoring at you, you feel like, you know, things aren't going in the right direction. It would be really hard to have that patience and make sure your entire organization is on the same page and everyone is kind of living by the same mottos and same ways of thinking. I just feel like that's a very underrated quality for ownership and front office to have because it's not that easy. And people have egos too. Like as much as athletes have egos, like so do the people in the front office, so do owners. Like it's hard to get all of that aligned. So I do, you know, not to give him so much credit here, but I do think he definitely deserves credit.
Yeah, and I think the importance of this postseason and how this core does, I think this is gonna matter. I mean, like
Yeah.
this is our generation's version of like the whole Mark Price thing, and like they weren't able to get over the hump versus the Bulls, and that was a team that was thought to be a potential to be the next dynasty in the 90s during that era, right? With Brad Daugherty and everything else that they had, Ron Harper. Those were really good teams, and it's like, hey, now the Cavs are in a similar position. It's like, hey, there's no Jordan there, okay? As much as Jason Tatum thinks he's Jordan, there's no Jordan there, right? But can this Cavs team get over the hump, and just how differently is that going to be viewed if this Cavs team does get over the hump? There's a lot we're going to be excited for, and we're going to talk about. Don't worry. We're going to see more of Ab on this channel for sure as the Cavs get into the playoff run.
Hopefully a long playoff run. Let's be playing till June, guys. Hopefully,
hopefully there it is. Yeah, I want a good, we're April 14th. We're talking about 2 more months of locked in Cavs talk. So, they take your break, relax a little bit, right? Think about the past, have some fun, watch some highlights. It's going to be time to lock in soon, Cavs fans. But anything you want to say before we head out?
Last thought is just that I can't believe our scrubs almost beat the Pacers in double overtime. That would have been very entertaining, but nonetheless, happy to have the regular season over and playoffs about to be starting.
I blame myself. I jumped on a playback stream with Tony Pesta while we were up 30, and we gave up 38 points worth of lead there. So I'm like, you know what? Can't jump on Tony P's stream anymore. Yeah, gotta stay off of it, or else I'm gonna cost the team some points there. Yeah. But all fun and games aside, thank you for coming on here. Y'all have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.